Hi, thanks for joining me for another Cricut tutorial. Today we're going to make these skillet handle pot holders with the Cricut Maker. If you have a Cricut Explorer, you can make them too. Don't worry. All you have to do is follow along, make the pattern, cut it out in cardstock, and then use that to cut your fabric by hand. But I think these make super fun gifts, and who doesn't need an extra pot holder? If you are a cast iron skillet user like we are, these come in super handy. Keep in mind you should not put these in the oven, and if you're using them on the stovetop, take them off while you're cooking and just put them on when you need to use the handle. You don't want to catch those on fire. Also, if you stay tuned to the end of the video, you're going to see a sneak peek of what we're going to make in the next video. And I think with what we're going to make in the next video and this one paired together is going to make a super fun gift. We only need a couple of items for this project. You're going to need 2 pieces of fabric, approximately 6 inches by 8 inches. One's going to be your lining and one's going to be your outer fabric. And then you also need some of this Bright insulated batting. I picked mine up at Joann's. You can buy it by the yard. It's relatively inexpensive, but you do need to use the Bright or something that is specified to be for hot pads. Now let's jump over to Design Space and get started. Here we are in Design Space. The first thing we need to do is grab a couple of shapes. So let's click on the Shapes menu over here on the left. Click on a square and a circle. And that's it. That's all we need. We're going to push that circle over here to the side for a minute, and we're going to click on our square. We need to change the square to a rectangle, and in order to do that, we have to unlock Keep Proportions. When you unlock Keep Proportions, it allows you to move the height and the width independently of each other. So you can either click right here in the lower left corner of the square on the lock. When you click it, you can see it unlocks, or you can click it right up here between the height and the width up here in the edit menu bar. Once you have that lock in the unlock position, we're going to change that width to 2.5, and we're going to change the height to 5.8 and click enter. Perfect. Now let's click on our circle. We want to make a 2.5 inch circle. We want it to be perfectly round, so we're going to leave that lock in the lock position and just go up here in the width and type 2.5 and click enter. And now we have a circle that is 2.5 by 2.5, exactly what we need. Now just to make things a little bit easier, we're going to click on that circle and change it to a different color. It doesn't matter what color, it's going to change here in a second, but just change it to a light color and it's going to help you line this up. When you click on the circle, you can see a hash mark right in the middle of the circle. The line going vertically is the center of the circle vertically, and the line going horizontally is the center of the circle horizontally. What we're going to try to do is put that horizontal line right here on the bottom of the rectangle. So we're just going to go down here and we're just kind of eyeballing it. It doesn't have to be perfect, but try to get it so it's pretty close to the center. And what I'm trying to do is change the bottom of this rectangle to rounded. So I'm trying to get it low enough that it's going to cover those edges. That looks good. Now, just to be sure that it's exactly center, we're going to select both the rectangle and the circle by drawing a box around it. And we're going to click Align, and we're going to tell it to center horizontally. That's going to make sure it's in exactly the center. The circle is exactly the center of the rectangle. I'm going to click off of it just a second and see if any of my edges are sticking out, and they're not. But if they are, you might need to readjust your circle up or down just a little bit. You're just trying to get a rounded edge on the bottom of this rectangle. So let's select them both and weld. Now you can weld by clicking over here in the lower right corner or right click and weld. Perfect. Like I said, this is all one color now and it's exactly what we need. So now I just want to double check. We are looking at a shape that is 2.5 inches wide by, it should be right around 7 inches tall. It doesn't have to be exact, but you want 7.0, 7.1, something like that. As long as you're in that realm, you're good. So mine's 7.125. I'm good with that. Now we need 2 of these to make our shape that we need. So we're going to click Duplicate over here in the Layers panel in the upper right corner. And when we have 2 of them, we're going to click on one and just change it again to another color just to make things a little bit easier to see. Now what we want to do is click on that one, move it over, and we just want to make it so that the edges are slightly overlapping. And you can even pull it down like this so that you can see, but you want to make sure it's just slightly overlapping. Can you see that? I can tell this edge is slightly over that one, not much, just a hair. So I'm going to select both. I'm going to click Arrange, Align Tops. And now they're side by side and they are slightly overlapping. Remember, they were 2.5 inches each wide. Now it's slightly under 5 inches when they're combined, so I know they're overlapping. If yours is not under 5 inches, just by a little bit, then you need to move them just a little bit closer and realign it. So once you have those overlapping just slightly, we're going to right click and weld. And that's it. That's the shape that we need for our pattern. So I'm going to leave this one gray, and this is going to represent my Insulbright, my batting that's going to go in the middle. But I still need an outer piece and a lining piece to cut my fabric out. So while this is selected, I'm going to right click and duplicate, or you can click duplicate over here in the layers panel. Either way, I'm a right clicker. Click duplicate. Here is my outer fabric. So I'm going to click on that and change this to a color that represents my outer fabric. While that one's selected, I'm going to right click and duplicate again. This is going to be my lining fabric. So just pick a color that's going to represent your lining fabric and go ahead and change the color of that one. And that's it. That's all we need to create our skillet handle pot holder. I hope you guys are enjoying learning to make your own patterns. I really believe the more you work in Design Space, the easier it becomes to use and you start to understand what each of the features do. So now that we have all of our pieces, we're going to click Make It. And I just wanted to show you real quickly, here is our batting piece, our lining piece, our outer fabric, or whatever order yours are in, that's fine. Click Continue. Select your device. Okay, when you're on your batting layer, I wanted to show you something. While it's selected, click on View All when you get to the Set Materials window. And I was shocked to see this, but if you type in Insulbright, Cricut's already got a setting for you right there, so you don't have to guess what to cut that on. So that was just kind of fun. And then of course you're going to want to change your material accordingly to whatever fabric you're using, and you do that just by clicking here when you get to the next layer, and you can change it to cotton or flannel or whatever fabric you're using. So go ahead and cut those pieces out and I'll show you how to put this together. Okay, we have a little bit different view today. If things look differently, I'm using my other machine and I just wanted to try this and see how this works for a video. But we've got our three pieces. We've got our Insulbright, our lining, and our outer fabrics. The first thing we need to do is make a sandwich, and you're going to start by laying your Insulbright down. Now there's a matte side and a shiny side, and I did a little bit of research. Some people say put it shiny side up, some people say put it down, and quite frankly, most of them say it doesn't matter. So I'm not going to worry about it. Put your Insulbright down, and then you want to put your outer fabric face up. Outer fabric pretty side up, and then you're going to take the one that's going to be your lining and put it pretty side down. And once you have those lined up pretty well, especially on this short end, you can go ahead and clip the sides if you want. And we're just going to sew right down this short end using a 1/2 inch seam allowance, or whatever works for you. Just be consistent throughout your project. So I'm just going to put this under my presser foot, and we're going to back stitch at the beginning and the end. Okay, once you have your short side sewn, you're going to lift up your lining side. So you're looking at the two pretty sides of the fabric. This side is the outer fabric, and that's your insole braid. Now you want to fold this in half like this. And the most important part is to make sure these two seams meet up. So once you have those even, go ahead and clip or pin those. And then proceed down the edge, lining up all the different layers. Now it's easy to let this fabric kind of shrink down in there. You want to make sure you've got everything lined up. Make it look nice and neat. And go ahead and pin or clip. I like to put a couple clips on the folded side just to help keep things from shifting. And then you're going to do the same thing on the lining. However, on the lining side, we are going to leave about a 3-inch opening on the long side. So I'm going to delineate that area that I don't want to sew with pins rather than my clips. But you can do whatever you want. You could even just use a fabric marker to indicate where you want to start and stop sewing. So between my 2 pins, I'm not going to stitch. Then I want everything else lined up. Okay, so once you have it all pinned, again, you're not going to sew between about 3 inches on the long side, and it doesn't have to be exact, just that's where we're going to turn this right side out. So what we're going to do is start sewing right here, and we're going to sew all around the edge, go all the way down, sew up to our stopping point, back stitch, and cut your thread. And then you're going to pick it back up and sew from here all the way around and back stitch at the beginning and the end. So let's go ahead and sew that. Okay, so I have sewn all the way around. I've left a 3-inch or so opening right here. This is not sewn on that side, but everything else is sewn. The next thing you want to do is go around your curved edges, and if you have a wide seam allowance, you just might want to trim that down a little bit. Make sure you don't cut into your seam, and you can snip those edges just a little bit, and it will help it move a little easier on those corners. Next, you're going to open this up and start turning this right side out. Now this takes a little bit of time, especially when you get down to the insulation, so take your time and work gently. You're going to pull that outer here, right side out. Right side, just take your time, it's a little work. Once you have it all the way turned right side out, you can stick a chopstick or something similar in the 3-inch opening that you left and push those corners out the rest of the way. Now I would take it over to your iron and press this out. Make sure you poke out your lining as well on the top. Should have a nice rounded edge up there. And go ahead and take it over to your iron, and you're going to press in that opening, press the raw edges in towards the middle. So let me press that and I'll be right back. Okay, you can see I have pressed it, and right here is my opening. I'm just going to stick that under the sewing machine. This is going to be on the inside of the pot holder. Nobody's going to see it. So I'm just going to run a stitch to close that opening. And that's it. You basically finished. All you have to do is tuck this lining back inside. Give it a final press, and that's it. If you want to make it look just a little more finished, you can run a stitch along that edge. It's a little bit difficult, but it can be done. And here you can see my final skillet handle pot holders. The bottom one is the one we made in the video. My liner was just a little bit longer, so I pulled that out, and I kind of like that look where the liner is showing on the outside. Here is the one I made that I showed in my preview video on Facebook. This one was made out of flannel, and the red one was also made out of flannel. Next video, we're going to make the matching hot mitt, and I've got a free SVG pattern for you, and I think this makes a super fun gift set. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give me a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe. If you click that little bell by the subscribe button, it will send you an email, and you'll be notified every time I have a new video. So thanks again for being here. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.